Hey, and welcome back to my channel. We're back for another book review, and I don't know why it's sounding like this. But today we're going to talk about The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. So we're first going to read the summary, which is on the back of the book. When a fake relationship between scientists meets the irresistible force of attraction, it throws one woman's carefully calculated theories on love into chaos. As a third-year PhD candidate, Olive Smith doesn't believe in lasting romantic relationships, but her best friend does, and that's what got her into this situation. Convincing An that Olive is dating and well on her way to a happily ever after was always going to take more than hand-wavy Jedi mind tricks. Scientists require proof. So, like any self-respecting biologist, Olive panics and kisses the first man she sees. That man is none other than Adam Carlson, a young hotshot professor, and well-known ass. Which is why Olive is positively floored when Stanford's reigning lab tyrant agrees to keep her charade a secret and be her fake boyfriend. And when a big science conference goes haywire, putting Olive's career on the Bunsen burner, Adam surprises her again with his unyielding support and even more unyielding six-pack abs. Suddenly, their little experiment feels dangerously close to combustion, and Olive discovers that the only thing more complicated than a hypothesis on love is putting her own heart under the microscope. I have to say, going into this, of course, you know, when I bought it, I read the synopsis, you know, on the website, and I believe the synopsis is basically this on the back. So I kind of, you know, I knew kind of what was going to happen, but I have to say, this book was so much fun to read. It's semi-predictable, but also there's a few plot twists, a few surprises thrown in there. I would say probably the biggest plot twist is that the author, Miss Hazelwood, she's a New York Times best-selling author of The Love Hypothesis, as well as the writer of peer-reviewed articles about brain science in which no one makes out and the ever after is not always happy. So she is actually not a writer. She is a professor. Originally from Italy, she lived in Germany and Japan before moving to the United States to pursue a PhD in neuroscience. This is her first book, I believe, and she's not a writer, she's a scientist. And she even says in here, the reason that this book is set in academia, which is, you know, the grad student, you know, there's a lot of grad student talk, there's a lot of science talk. She says, let's see. I write stories set in academia because academia is all I know. And because she's not like an author. And I think that is so cool. This book is incredible, you guys. If you have not read this and you love romance, this definitely would be something right up your alley. Especially if you are like a PhD student, or you know, you have a PhD, or you want to be like, if you're going to college and you're interested in all that stuff, there's a lot of sciencey words and like talk in here that I didn't always understand, but that's okay for me. Like that's not a huge deal. You know, sometimes you learn stuff. You see a new word that you don't know, and I don't know about you, but if I'm reading a book and it has a word that I don't know, I look it up. You know, so sometimes you learn new words, and it's quite interesting. I don't believe I've read a book like this before, at least not set in academia like this. Of course, I've read like professor-student romances, but nothing where like he's a professor and she's a student and they kind of have to navigate the trials with that. Also, they're fake dating. So you have to navigate the trials that inevitably happen with that too. And it's hilarious, y'all. It's just some of the situations that they get into are very, very funny. I will say that before every chapter, there is, let's see, we'll go to chapter 1. There's like a little hypothesis, and it kind of states like the theme of the chapter. So like chapter 1 says, hypothesis. When given a choice between A, a slightly inconveniencing situation, and B, a colossal shit show with devastating consequences, I will inevitably end up selecting B. And it's, you know, every little chapter has like a little hypothesis, and it makes you think about things in a little bit different way. I really related to Olive. I'm not a PhD student, never been a PhD student, don't want to be a PhD student, but I think, you know, coming from her perspective of, you know, she's been devoted to science, she's not been interested in love, like she just hasn't given it a chance. She wants to, I don't want to say save the world, but she's on a very specific mission with science. Like there's something very specific she wants to accomplish, and that requires dedication and time and motivation, and sometimes that means sacrificing a social life, which she's happily sacrificed. When she starts to have friends and she starts to feel attraction for somebody, her mindset kind of changes. Like she still wants to do the academics, but she also wants a fuller life. You know, she wants the more social aspect of it too, and I think that's very realistic for all of us. The character growth and development is absolutely incredible. The Olive at the beginning of the book is completely different from the Olive at the end. I don't want to do too many spoilers. I don't do a lot of spoilers on here when I do book reviews, but if you would like to read spoilers, I do post book reviews on my blog, which is on my website, beautifullyfearless.com. I believe there's a link to my blog. You know, this book was not what I expected at all. I think when you read the back, you kind of have an idea of what's going to happen. You kind of have an idea going into it of, okay, it's kind of like a meet cute, right? Like she's desperate to show her friend that she's, you know, in a relationship. So she kisses the first guy she sees, which just so happens to be a professor, and not just any professor, but the lab ass who yells at people for misspelling things, who breaks vials or samples or whatever it is that they do in the lab over minuscule things. And it's interesting, like there's a part of the book where he kind of talks about why he is the way he is, and he explains a little bit more deeply, and he's incredibly misunderstood. You know, I feel like people look at him and judge him, and they do the opposite of what he does. He looks at people's work and judges their work, not the person, whereas people look at him and judge him and not his work. I mean, obviously he's a very like highly regarded professor, very highly awarded professor, all of this stuff, very incredibly smart and talented and very successful, but people look at him and the most thing that they notice is his attitude, or the fact that he's opinionated. You know, he's very blunt. He reminded me a lot of Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. A lot of this book, when you're reading about the lab stuff, I couldn't help thinking about the Big Bang Theory. And if you've ever watched that show, maybe you'll read this book and you'll feel the same way. There's a lot of like really funny parts in here. There's a big part towards the end that makes you want to throw the book and punch somebody in the face. And if you read my blog, you'll know exactly what situation it is, and you know. And I have to say, but everything is very well written. The villain of the story, incredibly well written. Like hero, heroine, like all of these characters are so well developed, and I would be eager to read a sequel to this. And I actually think this would make a very hilarious movie. So I doubt that Allie Hazelwood will ever watch this review, but if you do watch it, please make a movie. Please make a movie. Please write a sequel, or a prequel. You know, this is a very good book, and I can see the opportunity for sequels or for more books in a series, kind of books that maybe follow this story, but you don't need to read this book to understand those books. Maybe involve some of the same characters. It's just, it's an incredible book. This is incredibly well written, especially for somebody who's in academia. Of course, if she's in science, you have to write reports all the time, so it's not like you're not a writer, but writing for creative purposes and writing fiction and like romance is a lot different than writing a scientific report about what you did in the lab and the processes that you used and the protocols that you followed and, you know, all of that stuff. So I can't. It's a great book. It's an absolutely great book. So I highly, highly recommend it. If you haven't heard about this book yet, please go find it and check it out. Very, very good. It is available on Audible. Obviously I have the paperback version. I don't know if it's available in hardcover, but I believe I found it at my local Walmart or maybe the Walmart website. I don't I don't remember, but it's pretty easy to find. And I know that we are starting to listen to it on Audible now. I finished the book, but now we're going to listen to it on Audible because my husband doesn't really... I read books like really fast, but then we kind of listen to books together. And sometimes if I read a really good book, I'm like, oh, we need to listen to this book. So we're currently starting this book, but definitely recommend. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Let me know if you have read this book, if you liked it, if you didn't like it. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. Let's see. I think that covers about everything. I mean, I don't want to give too many things away, but kind of a roller coaster of emotions. Like there's really sad moments, and then there's really angry moments that you want to throat punch somebody, and then there's really like romantic and spicy moments, and you know, there's funny moments, and it's kind of, it runs the gamut, I would say. There's nothing extremely graphic. Some of the spicy scenes can be a little bit more graphic, but as far as the scientific procedures, they're not graphic at all. There's nothing gory, there's nothing violent or bloody, anything like that in this book. So if that's something that you don't like, this would be a good good book for you to read. If you like romance too, I don't know. But anyway, let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below. Like this video if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring that bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new video, because you never know what kind of content is going to pop up over here on this channel. I thank you all so much for watching. I love you all very, very much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!